Welcome to NFL Daily, where we would never back out of a trade agreement. I'm Gregg Rosenthal here in the Chris Wesseling podcast studio with my friend Steve Wyche. Colleen Wolf is coming up a little later on the show. We have reached the new league year.
We're here
in the NFL, and like a lot of first days of the new league year, it's not as busy as the first day of the negotiating period on Monday, but Trey Hendrickson and the Ravens gave us a good, juicy piece of steak. We'll also get to some trades. A Cowboys trade happened just before we started taping. I like a lot of the moves the Commanders are making. That's coming up later in the show, but let's get to the Trey Hendrickson, Maxx Crosby saga. When we last left off on NFL Daily, the trade was canceled. We speculated, this looks pretty good for Trey Hendrickson, and it did wind up being just that. $60 million guaranteed, a 4-year contract for Hendrickson. Let's start about just how Trey Hendrickson landed in Baltimore and how you think this all went down,
well,
Steve.
First off, he's got to pass the physical before the trade becomes official. Look, this is one where clearly Trey Hendrickson, I think the market was slow for him. And then all of a sudden the Maxx Crosby deal gets voided in Baltimore because he fails the physical. Baltimore's like, oh man, okay, we get the draft pick, but we have him, Hendrickson out there, and the market's not as juicy as maybe he thought it would be. So let's get him for $28 million a year, which is actually $2 million a year less than Maxx Crosby. So he's there. At the same time, as good of a player as Hendrickson is, the way this all came about, that they agreed to the trade with Maxx Crosby, they knew he was coming off of knee surgery. They got their imaging and saw some stuff that they didn't like, and they were like, we're not giving up 2 first-round draft picks, and we are going to get Trey Hendrickson instead.
Let's listen to Eric DeCosta, and we might listen to a couple clips, but let's listen to him talk about the signing of Trey Hendrickson and the notion, this was put out there by some of the reporting too, that they could have had both Trey Hendrickson and Maxx Crosby. Waiting on the sound for that. We'll put that in later. But basically, DeCosta was saying that when he wanted to, potentially sign Trey Hendrickson, he thought about, okay, we could potentially do both. But when I looked at the overall kind of timeline and how it went, and Mike Garafolo talked about this too, I think they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. Like, they were in on Trey Hendrickson at one point, but they weren't necessarily going to go to the mat for him. And then once they find out that the Maxx Crosby thing is not going to work, okay, now let's get this deal done. Because it sounded like Trey Hendrickson wanted about $10 million more than he actually ended up getting. And I think the Ravens ended up making up the difference. And they were one of those teams that were in the mix at the lower end of the spectrum.
Correct. I mean, and you heard Eric DeCosta say when they lost center Tyler Linderbaum, then they knew they had a little more cash to play with. And then with Maxx Crosby, when they avoided that trade, that's when they had the money to go get him. Now, the notion that they could get those two to play together, that's if Trey Hendrickson wanted to maybe come in on a 1 or 2 year deal at a lesser number, which there's no way he's going to do. This guy's been wanting to get paid his entire career. So this is just how it fell out. But I'm with you. I think this is the Ravens like, hey, we entertain the notion of doing this, of these two playing together, but it didn't quite work out because.
Wouldn't you rather have Trey Hendrickson and the 2 first-round picks than Maxx Crosby?
It really all depends. Look, Maxx Crosby is a great player. A great player against the run. People don't talk enough about how good of a run defender he is.
It's a big drop-off to Trey Hendrickson.
And in that scheme that Jesse Minter is going to play, that is a significant role. So I think Maxx mainly plays on the left side, right? Trey is almost exclusively on the right side. Now, there's not so much schematic differences, but you design pressures differently. And so I don't know, man. I'm a big Maxx Crosby guy. He is such a disruptive player.
Well, you know who else is a big Maxx Crosby guy, though, too? I think Eric DeCosta. If he was acting on Wednesday when he met the media of how disappointed he was and saying how, look, this is not the result we wanted. We're hearing reports, from Ian and whatnot. It's like, look, Maxx Crosby is one of his favorite players.
I would believe that.
I kind of believe it, too. Let's actually listen to Eric DeCosta talk about, some of the skepticism around the NFL, including on our network, about what the Ravens have been doing.
Again, I understand how people might maybe from afar would feel that way, but nobody's more upset about this than me. Gutted by it, actually. And so a big regret for me. But we will move on as a football team, and I think there's many opportunities for us to grow as a team, to become a better team, to build a roster, and to be the team that we want to be.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they really wanted him. The fact that they were going to offer up 2 first-round draft picks, something they've never done for this type of trade.
What are the conspiracy theories really think the Ravens were trying to do here? That basically they just changed their mind because they realized Trey Hendrickson was available. Trey Hendrickson was available the whole time. They could have paid Trey Hendrickson $28 million a year the whole time, and they could have had him. I think they got to look at those scans, and it's only a couple months out from surgery, and they could have gotten that physical maybe done a little faster. They agreed to that trade on Friday. Why wasn't he there faster? And he's a guy who I saw the stats, and it was the most snaps played in the NFL since 2019. And it was him and Byron Murphy. Byron Murphy was a cornerback way ahead of the pack, way ahead of any defensive lineman. And he's coming off a torn meniscus surgery. And maybe they saw some stuff that's like, I don't know.
One thing to add to that, and this is not being talked about enough. We don't know if it factors into it. Remember, before last season, he had surgery on his ankle on the same leg. So maybe there was some residual something that they saw in there from both of those. Now, Max played his tail off last year coming off that ankle surgery, so maybe not. But there clearly was something in that imaging. And to go back to what you were saying about the physical part, what people don't understand is these guys just don't go into a team facility when they get traded or free agency and get examined there. They may show up, meet people, and then they go to an off-site facility to get examined. So maybe they couldn't get the physical done because the doctor wasn't available or the person was not available to do that imaging.
There's so many fascinating angles to this. I could talk about this for 20 minutes. I think we will. They got a quote, and by they, I should be specific. Adam Schefter got a quote by the surgeon.
Neil Elatrosh.
Who looked at it.
Whose doctors take care of my shoulders, by the way.
How are they doing?
Not good.
Oh, well, that's not a good advertisement for him.
Got to get him replaced.
That's unfortunate. People don't know. Steve was an ex-player. You were getting it done. At the high school level, the college level a little bit.
I was a practice player in college.
Okay. The quote from him was much more understanding of the Ravens situation than a lot of the conspiracy theorists. I'm just going to read a little part of it. He said, "We truly respect the work the Ravens staff did regarding his physical exam. We understand the challenge the staff faced when tasked to provide a future assessment. This is especially challenging when dealing with an elite player like Max, considering the level of commitment necessary for a team to obtain it." It keeps going. "The timing of the assessment's unfortunate because the risk will lessen as the recovery progresses and he can return to his performance." And then it goes on from there. But how I read that is like, yeah, it's not looking great necessarily right now. It's pretty, soon after the surgery. And we actually respect from a medical point of view why you would have some questions right now, which is why our guy Ian Rappaport was on this very show late last month saying, I don't know if this trade is going to happen until he gets better because this was a real deal, serious surgery. And so I don't know if the Raiders made it sound like things were better off than they were, but I find it really interesting that there's reporting from R. Jane Slater that the Ravens actually tried to renegotiate this trade at a certain point, talking about, well, look, after seeing what we saw, maybe we can just change the terms here a little bit, and that was kind of floating out there. And then they reportedly came back to the Raiders and were like, actually, no, we're just out now because of everything that we know. Look,
this is not the first time a player has been flunked on a physical. And this is because Maxx Crosby is such a superstar and such a great player. But it happens all the time where teams will approve, their doctors will approve a physical to an injured player or a player coming off of surgery because they trust their medical staff to be able to get maybe this player, hey, we can get this guy through 4 years. We can get this guy through this injury. Let's just make sure we have the proper plan. Clearly, again, what they saw was alarming enough because the Ravens have a very, reputable medical staff. And so for them to say, yeah, we don't know, that's why I'm kind of like when people are like, oh, other teams will come in and trade for Maxx Crosby. I'm like, the Ravens just put out here, he's damaged goods, man. So if you're going to trade for him, understand what you might be getting. I'm a big believer that Maxx Crosby is going to come back and play next season and be great.
Right. But that's the thing is in the end, there's a good chance that he's going to play very well because he's been playing through a lot of these injuries and playing very well and because he's Maxx Crosby. But to me, just the level of outrage and just so many people are so mad about this. It's just like a team changed his mind based on new information. It's fine. Of all the things that I've seen our media get mad about, everyone was fine with the entire league colluding against Lamar Jackson and the entire league fighting each other to give Deshaun Watson, who's a serial sexual assaulter, the biggest contract in NFL history. Like, no one really cared about that, but everyone's mad that the Ravens changed their mind.
Well, here's
calm down.
Well, let's go to the prelude to that. How pissed were Raiders fans that they traded Maxx Crosby? They were livid. They were livid. And now that they're getting him back, they're ultra livid because they're not getting 2 first-round picks this year to go with Fernando Mendoza after their team's done a great job of stacking the roster in free agency. You can't have it both ways.
Right.
And if Maxx Crosby comes back to this team with the players that they got, they are a significantly better team. You want 98.
And so you know who I think was mad? The teams that didn't get Maxx Crosby, not Maxx Crosby, the teams that didn't get Trey Hendrickson. We got reporting on NFL Network that the Colts were heavy in on him, that the Colts were kind of the leader in the clubhouse, and they saw him. And so when you're seeing these reports, people around the league are mad. There's a GM who says it's BS. Well, maybe it's the GM that just lost out on Trey Hendrickson, and it's entirely self-interested. The Eagles are reportedly in. They were reportedly in on Trey Hendrickson, at least getting in at the last second. They might also be in on Jonathan Grenard. So they're upset because it's hurting their own personal interest. You know who?
And they lost Jalen Phillips.
Right. And you know who else is upset? Maxx Crosby. Mike Garafolo says that he was absolutely furious. We actually have a graphic of Maxx Crosby on Instagram, and that was him coming back the night before, where he's got looks like a private.
He's on the PJ. He's on the PJ.
The kids call it the PJ.
Call it the PJ.
We're not kids.
Private jet. Everything's an acronym.
I mean, but he doesn't own that. He's like a.
You sure about that?
You're just buying that. The net jets. I mean, I know Mark Davis isn't sending him a private jet to pick him back up at this point.
No, I mean, maybe that was the Ravens private jet actually saying, hey, look, for everything you're going. Look, he's going to be pissed because he's disappointed because I'm sure he didn't love the fact that for everything that supposedly went down with the Raiders, he loved the fact that he probably didn't love the fact that he was leaving. He loves that organization. He loves that community. But then all of a sudden he gets this imaging. He's all excited. He's posting pictures from the Inner Harbor from his hotel room. I know exactly where he's staying because I've stayed in that same hotel and had the same views. Thinking he's getting ready to go, hey, this is the closest I'm going to be to getting to a Super Bowl. I'm going to the Baltimore Ravens. And now they're telling me my body is the reason why I'm not going through. I'm sure he's
livid. It's a feeling of rejection. So I'm glad you brought up the potential trade that's coming up. Now, initially, and I saw this from Diana Rossini, and I've seen it kind of intimated from our network, the Raiders are not changing their price tag for Maxx Crosby, that they still want
good for them
2 firsts for now.
Good for them.
They're not going to get it.
No.
And I still believe he will be traded. The only thing I'm backing off of is that it's going to happen soon. It still wouldn't surprise me if he gets traded for a first-round pick later this week. Maybe a first and a late-round pick, something like that. Because at this point, but if you're the Raiders, maybe you don't rush it. Maybe you wait till he's getting healthy again, and that this trade happens down the line. Right. In the end, even though they can fit him under the salary cap, I think he'll be more valuable to another team, and I expect him to have a plenty good market, just not a 2 first market, and I do think he'll get dealt.
Or if you just wait to the summer and you deal these for 27 picks. Right, I mean that's another thing that you have to look at is because one of the Ravens picks was a 27 pick. It wasn't. There was one this year and one next year. They weren't both this year. So when we talk about the Raiders having 2 first-round picks, one is their own and one was the Ravens, not 2. So hold on to the first-round picks and stack them for future years.
You know what's fascinating is that the Cowboys, team doctor is the guy who examined him, and then immediately afterwards we heard actually the Cowboys are out now.
They're out.
And they're saying it's because they got Rashawn Gary, but Rashawn Gary's no Maxx Crosby.
Well, they weren't.
And you could have both.
I'm not.
Or you could get out of Rashawn Gary.
I'm not going with the medical part about it. Jane Slater and all the people with the Cowboys are talking about we're not giving up 2 first-round picks.
But they were willing to give up a first and supposedly like another pick and a player. I feel like if the Cowboys were willing to do that before, that they should have been willing to do it after, and so maybe it's because of their medical information. Before we move on from this, I just wanted to point out, I wish I was on live with Claybon on NFL Network when this happened because he's a Ravens guy, and I think he told me, I don't think he would mind me betraying this. he'd rather have Trey Hendrickson in the first-round picks. He's a big Trey Hendrickson guy. And I think the Ravens agreed with him, in the end.
Well, see, it's easy to say now, though, because you keep the first-round pick. You've got to replace your center, right? Tyler Linderbaum. They've lost so many pieces now. They lost Isaiah Likely. They've lost some good players. So now you want that first-round pick so you can fortify the roster that has been depleted.
Glad you mentioned that.
That part.
This Raiders team looks much better than when Maxx Crosby was last on it, and they could afford to keep him. So who knows? If ever there was a relationship that could maybe come back together, that would be compelling, although I still think he'll be an ex-Raider before the start of the season. But if you look at what the Ravens need right now, they just lost their center.
Yep.
A huge hole right there. I mean, according to Eric DeCosta, they were ready to sign Trey Hendrickson and Maxx Crosby. So you could use another edge. You're telling us that you're not too happy with your edge group right now.
And they drafted Mike Green last year. Remember, he was supposed to be the stud.
You got a big hole. You got no Maxx Crosby there. They lost Isaiah Likely from a group that I thought didn't have enough weapons in terms of catching the football already, so they could use a wide receiver. Those are big needs. They did sign Jalen Hawkins from the
Stephon
Patriots
Diggs. Stephon Diggs is still out there too, and he's from that area. I think Stephon Diggs would be a beast on that team.
That I could totally imagine.
He's from the DMV too.
Happening. Wow. Okay. They also signed Chidobe Awuzie, so they did re-sign him at cornerback, and they restructured Lamar Jackson's contract. DeCosta said that they're still hoping to extend Lamar Jackson, but they ran out of time with the new league year starting. He doesn't think the restructure will get in the way of potentially extending Lamar Jackson. Wow, that was a lot. Let's get to the rest of the day. But first, let's take a little bit of break here on YouTube and on the NFL channel. If you're watching us on YouTube, we'll be back in just a couple minutes. Back on NFL Daily, we completed our biggest acquisition of the season during the break.
Yeah.
We've negotiated with ESPN/NFL Network to get Colleen Wolf for the rest of the show.
Hello.
It's a new league year acquisition too.
Yeah. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
This is an ultimate Colleen day here.
Oh, you have no idea.
How much can I reveal about it?
You can, please, I'm an open book. It's fine.
Your email was shut down because you had 17 different workplace video safeties.
I was behind on my compliance. My ninjas were not done. And the one that triggered it was called Who Works Here? And I was like, well, I don't know the answer, actually, guys, if we're being honest. But yeah, so.
You're dealing with that Uber accident that's been in the mix.
The roads are closed out
and
front.
then more importantly, you're driving through like Mario Kart, trying to get in through the closed streets outside. So
I drove through construction cones to get to you guys. So you're welcome.
We love Colleen whenever she arrives.
They're getting the road ready for the World Cup.
Let's go.
Or ESPN.
Hopefully Kyler Murray's, trip to Minnesota not as tricky for him. He is going to the Vikings, but it doesn't mean he's necessarily signing there. He is visiting the Minnesota Vikings to take a physical, which we've learned is an important part of the signing procedures. And according to our insiders, they are, the favorites to land Kyler Murray. This is very important for J.J. McCarthy, for the Minnesota Vikings, and for me, because if Kyler Murray goes to the Vikings, I'm probably winning that matchmaker game that we did last week. But we'll see. What do you think about Kyler Murray going to the Vikings, and also the reporting saying like he still wants to listen to whoever else might be calling and anything else that's out there?
I feel like that is just kind of like an extra little add-on because it's from the very beginning, this is the fit that makes the most sense, I think, for Kyler Murray and for the Vikings. J.J. McCarthy might not think so, but I think that this also obviously signifies the Vikings moving on from any potential reunion with Kirk Cousins. And it's just, I think that Justin Jefferson will be happy about this potentially.
Will he ever? Yeah.
Because I think
a guy that can throw to the outside.
Yeah, exactly. So Kyler Murray, I think, has a really good shot at winning the job.
Who else is he listening to? Saskatchewan, the Rough Riders?
The Rough Riders.
When I mentioned the matchmaker game, in Jordan, hello, I know she's going to be listening at some point. She's a big NFL Daily listener. We need it. She threw out the Rams as a potential.
He's not starting for the Rams.
But when I heard that, he wants to listen to see what's out there, what's right for him, she's not just putting that on the show out of nowhere.
No.
And so if you're Kyler Murray, and we haven't heard any reporting elsewhere about the Rams, but if you're Kyler Murray, if, let's say, either Andy Reid or Sean McVay calls and says, hey, we have these two different situations. You can kind of take a step back for a year. You can go through our almost quarterback school. You could win some games for the Chiefs. You might end up playing for the Rams. You might not. But either way, you'll learn the system that the whole league is running. That's something to consider.
And the Chiefs do need a backup quarterback since Gardner Minshew is now in Arizona. Right. So I get that. That's not a bad idea, but if he wants to start.
The problem is Kevin O'Connell gives you a lot of that too. That's the system, and nobody quarterbacks just. I don't know what Kevin O'Connell does.
It's worked for Daniel Jones and it's worked for Sam Darnold, the two biggest reclamation projects going through there.
I mean, people get with Kevin O'Connell and they just swoon. Quarterbacks, they just want to go there. Remember, Caleb Williams talked about it in that Seth Wickersham book that he just was hoping he knew he wasn't going to go to Minnesota, but he just wanted to go to Minnesota. Because that's kind of he's the quarterback guy.
Well, then I feel like this is, as long as he passes his physical, which there should be no issues, I would think.
How good is
he's got the Liz
team?
Frank. He's got the foot.
Yeah.
They won 9 games a year ago with pretty poor quarterback play. They won 14 games the year before with,
And they weren't just hurt by quarterback
play.
Their offensive line was decimated. Christian Darrisaw was out of the lineup. They had some issues on the offensive line in terms of just durability, injury issues, but they're still a really good football team. Their defense is going to keep them in games.
What do you think his ceiling is, Kyler, with the Vikings?
I think he's fantastic. I've seen Kyler Murray play so many times live, and I am a big Kyler Murray guy.
That's the thing is I think a coach like O'Connell or Sean McVay or Andy Reid sees him at his best and sees, man, if I could get a hold of that, because I'll answer my own question in terms of what's this where would you put them in the hierarchy? Yeah, I think they can go to the NFC Championship game. I think they can be a contender because if they were that good with Sam Darnold, I think Kyler Murray has a chance to provide that level level of play. The Lions, you mentioned you're not happy with how their offseason's going.
Well, I mean, they just haven't been able to get people, but I mean, they're such big believers in, draft and develop. But, like, we're looking at a video of Kyler Murray right now. People are like, okay, he's small and he runs around. When you see that ball leave his hand, okay, there are 5 or 6 guys when you look at throw the ball, and you're just like, okay,
it's pretty.
They're different. That ball leaves their hand. I mean, Stafford, that ball leaves their hand different. He is one of those guys. It's a boom when it leaves his hand.
And Colleen mentioned Kirk Cousins. That's not going to happen. It sounds like in Minnesota there really hasn't been the interest there. There was some interest in Geno Smith from Minnesota, but he's obviously with the Jets. There was a report by the Athletics, Diana Rossini, that the Raiders are interested in Kirk Cousins and that he might end up going there to be, presumably Fernando Mendoza's backup or, short-term starter before Mendoza's ready to go. Let's go to a quarterback who's been near and dear to Colleen's heart and the team of Colleen Wolf. The Indianapolis Colts. In the end, they did kind of what we said they were going to do, which was get Alec Pierce and Daniel Jones to stay. And now Daniel Jones has a 2-year contract. The details are very interesting, Colleen. It's a 2-year contract for about $88 million. About $50 million is guaranteed total, and $60 for injury. When I hear $50 million fully guaranteed, it kind of sounds like a 1-year deal where, like, if everything went horribly, and I wouldn't want that to happen, but for him and or the Colts, like, I feel like that organization is on a 1-year deal. But if it goes well, then they got him for 2 years, and they can give him another contract if they want to be the long-term guy.
And so, like, with a lot of these moves, I'm looking at what the move signifies, too, in terms of, like, the other guys on the roster. And automatically my mind goes to Anthony Richardson and what this says to everyone about Anthony Richardson and where they are with him, because I know that they were talking about potentially trading him and what that could look like. But you know where I am with Daniel Jones. I love Daniel Jones. I want him to be the Sam Darnold. He was the Sam Darnold of last year, and then everything sort of collapsed. But I know that they are – I don't want to say that they're living in the past. I think that they saw – the success that they had in the first half of last season, and I think they know that they have so much talent on that roster and they could do it again potentially, and maybe they're just trying to run it back to see how close they can get.
Right, but they're running it back with a guy that has a torn Achilles tendon, and they don't have Michael Pittman anymore, and they tried to get Trey Hendrickson, and instead they signed Michael Clemens.
Fair.
I did a whole segment. Would you send that out? I'm thinking about sending that out on social, but it's basically saying negging their whole season, like, oh,
are
yeah.
Are you asking us? Are we workshopping your social?
I'm just saying, like, it's pretty negative for the first day after free agency to be like, it doesn't sound like that great a plan. And then I get some comments of like, yeah, well, Jason Tatum's playing already. It's like, okay, but that's 10 months after his injury. We're hearing Daniel Jones is going to be ready for week 1. Like, you don't know that.
You don't know that, but
it was December.
I mean, this is clearly, when you talk about some of those guarantees, there's clearly some triggers in there that trigger the guarantees. But I don't think they're rolling their dice like this, if they don't think he's going to come back. Fair. I don't think Alec Pierce re-signs if he doesn't think his buddy Daniel Jones is coming back. So I think all of that factored into it. And, I just think they feel that, okay, some of the guys we let go, Zaire Franklin, guys like this, we've got guys on our roster who we think can play. There's still some other players out there we can get, and we can draft. Okay, so that's what they feel like. They're in a division where they've seen Jacksonville take a lot of personnel losses in free agency, so that maybe they feel they can get right back there. Remember, we were talking about the Colts being the Super Bowl team halfway through the season.
Right.
I know, but there is something Danny Heifetz pointed out on the Ringer Fantasy Show of just like, there's almost something a little sad that they're just like, we gotta run this back because this was the best run that the entire Chris Ballard era had.
It worked so well.
I know, but they still finished 8-9 last year. Like, they didn't win a single game after he got hurt, and they started losing even before. I don't know. I just think it's a high bar to reach. Let's listen to Daniel Jones. Maybe he can perk me up. He was on ESPN.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He brings that smoke to perk you up.
Okay, haven't heard this one yet. Let's hear him on ESPN earlier today.
I wanted to be back, and glad we got it figured out. I didn't. The transition tag, that whole process was interesting, but I always wanted to be here, and had faith it would work out. So, definitely appreciative, grateful, and fired up to be here. We got a special thing going, and working with this coaching staff, working with the guys in the locker room, and fired up to get Alec back and all that. So looking forward to it.
Come on down, Riley Leonard. Yeah, no, that made me feel a little better. I mean, how do you feel? I mean, because I just feel like they gotta get out to a fast start. It's gonna be tricky. I thought they might do something at quarterback, and it's been quiet there. How do you feel about Riley Leonard holding the fort until?
Well, I feel like that's a different story. Like I have a lot more confidence in Daniel Jones, but I think that we just have to wait to see where he is in his rehab. And obviously there's a lot of questions that are going to have to be answered this offseason and training camp and preseason too.
I like that. I take, Colleen gets right off the street.
She's ready.
And then I'm just like putting her on the hot seat.
I know. I still have my lanyard on.
Let's take a quick break, and we're going to come back. There were a lot more moves around the NFL today. There's a 49ers trade, a lot of Commanders trades, and some other big-time signings, including one team that I think was just looking at my top 101 rankings and just picking off the players one by one in a few minutes. Back on NFL Daily, the 49ers have traded for Osa Odigizua from the Cowboys for a 2026 third-round pick that started bubbling up a little earlier in the week. I mean, this is a big-time player who they gave a quote-unquote $100 million contract to, is earning a little over $20 million, a pocket-pushing defensive tackle, and it helps, the team get some more draft picks. Solomon Thomas also was traded to the Titans in a swap of seventh-round picks from the Cowboys. But the Odigizua move is big for San Francisco, and it's interesting because Dallas is trying to get picks back. It's very confusing because they have the extra first-round pick from the Micah Parsons deal, but you kind of forget, they gave up all those picks for Quinnen Williams and for George Pickens, so they didn't have many picks after that. I don't really know what the plan is here. The defense keeps changing. Christian Parker is the defensive coordinator, so maybe Odigizua didn't fit as well. But that's a big-time acquisition to be paying that much money if you're the 49ers.
Well, clearly it's a cap move for Dallas as well to kind of clear some salary off their roster. But look, San Francisco, Raheem Morris is now their defensive coordinator. We know he likes those hyper-athletic defensive tackles, gap-type defensive tackles. He fits what they want to do. Now, Nick Bosa is coming back, but they've got to get something on Mike Williams. They've got to continue to develop some guys on that defensive front. But this is something where they clearly, like, we've got to be better against the run. Fred Warner's coming back off of an injury. I know they got D. Winters, and they're at one of the linebacker spots. I would not be surprised if Dre Greenlaw, who was let go by Denver, comes back to play the linebacker spot there. But this is a nice pickup of what Raheem Morris wants to do with his defense.
Yeah, and he rarely missed time, just as a player. So he's durable, he's consistent, you can rely on him. And you talk about some of the guys that are now there in San Francisco, including Matt Eberflus, who comes over from Dallas to the 49ers.
Good call.
And so
you're always connecting the coaches.
It's sort of my lane. I like to do that. But that sort of makes some sense, too.
They were spending a lot of money in terms of like defensive tackles in Dallas. Kenny Clark, Quinnen Williams, and Odigizua was kind of in the old scheme. And I thought San Francisco was going to be like the sneaky, super aggressive win-now team in this free agency period. And I don't think they got everything that they've wanted necessarily. I think
got
they were
a good wide receiver.
They were in on Alec Pierce, and then they wind up convincing Mike Evans to come instead for very little money. Trent Williams still on the roster. I don't know if that's going to change.
They'll figure that out.
I knew they needed some pass rush help, so I'm just thinking edge. But instead, it ends up being kind of an interior move and giving up a third-round pick. That's a real pick.
Yeah, it's a real pick.
That NFC West just feels like it's absolutely
It's an arms race,
loaded.
man. It is an arms race. What's going on out there?
Let's talk about the Commanders making moves, and they were the team I talked about. At a certain point on Wednesday, March 11th here, first day of the new league year, like there were the two highest guys on my top 101 were Kyler Murray, who just became a free agent on Wednesday, and then Rasheed Walker, the tackle from the Packers. The next three on the list, which were like between 30, I think, and 35, were Kayvon Chatham. Commanders took him for a one-year contract, $12 million, edge rusher. Then it was tight end Chigo Okonkwo. They signed him for about $9 million, I think, base salary on a 3-year contract. I like that move. And then the next guy on the list, the highest defensive player remaining, was Nick Cross, and they pick him off for a low-cost deal. And I'm just thinking, like, oh yeah, I forgot Leo Chanel, by the way, is there too.
Yeah, really good player.
Yeah.
And they got him. And they got Amik Robinson too.
Yes,
Robertson in the corner.
That was like a little earlier, but in terms of what happened Wednesday, they were just like picking off my guys. So I feel like I could be a consultant. As we're taping this, when the league year started, there was only like 2 in the top 42 players. That's never happened before. Free agency is just like moves faster than ever. That there's only 2 out of a top 40. But what do you think about the Commanders in your division?
I mean, first of all,
you are an Eagle. Making smart moves. I'm kind of I wasn't sure about the Odafe Oweh move. It was a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
But, man, they have added a lot of pretty good defensive players in Okonkwo for like guys who are in the middle of their careers instead of at the end of them.
Well, just to put some context into the way that free agency is moving right now, Steve and I were on a show Monday, and it was the second half of right after the legal tampering period window opened. And we're sitting in a production meeting trying to go through what the show would look like. We were gonna be on for 4 hours. And as we would start one topic, it was just like moves were rolling in left and right. Everything was changing so fast. And the Commanders were so quiet during that first day. But they made up for it, and I like that they, as Colleen the analyst here, I like that they focused on defense, which was obviously a major liability for them during the season, and they had all of this cap space, so they were able to make these signings and have the flexibility. As Colleen the Eagles fan, I hate it. I hate it all.
And it's guys like in their 20s. It's athletic, and I think it's really interesting. Durante Jones is the new defensive coordinator. He comes from Brian Flores.
DB coach.
You wonder, is it going to be Dan Quinn's defense or is it going to be Durante Jones? Well, I can just see Nick Cross and Leo Chanel specifically in that Brian Flores type of defense, just jackknifing and making some big run stuffs, and Leo Chanel rushing the passer from the linebacker position. It could be fun.
Well, look, they've got to get some guys who can win. Last year when they went into free agency, like you mentioned earlier, they went and got guys. Win now. We've got to get defensive front guys who can win on first down, right? They couldn't stop the run the year before when they went to the NFC Championship. That did not work out, and because they were slow up front, Their pursuit angles were terrible on the back end. I mean, they got hit for big run after big run. So now getting guys like Jason who can run, Oweh who are super athletic, right? You get Tim Settle from Houston. Forget that's a guy who can reset the line of scrimmage. He's going to rotate in there with Javon Kinlaw, who they love. And I love Nick Cross. I mean, I think he gives them an awful lot at that strong kind of hybrid safety spot. So we'll see, because Durante Jones, he is a secondary coach by nature, but he's an aggressive guy. He's one of those guys who's on the fast track on the way up in a lot of people's eyes as well. So it's a wait and see. But I think Chenal and Frankie Louvu just add significant athleticism to that interior linebacker core.
To me, they're the most like Patriots-like of an offseason, where they just have a ton of starters. They got a hit on it, but I just mean from last year, where they just got a lot of players who are going to play.
I think the one big miss, aside from Alec Pierce, would be not getting Tyler Linderbaum because of losing Tyler Biadasz.
Yeah,
like that's a huge part of the offensive line.
And they end up spending it, which I think was smart. I like the middle tier of this free agency group. They didn't have to spend too much on Chason, so they got 2 new edge starters in him and Oweh. They got a new linebacker in Chenal. They got Cross.
That center thing is big.
Yeah,
Biadasz and Jaden Daniels.
I think they're going to elevate Nick Allegretti, who was there and played a couple games at the end of
Super
last
Bowl
season.
winner, right?
They also might be adding Brandon Ayuk, by the way. I think he's officially expected to get cut. Maybe he's not going to solve their wide receiver situation, but it might be like a 1-year type of prove-it deal. While we're talking Commanders, Leo Chenal was part of something I just wanted to talk about a little bit, which were these messages on social media in which I don't know for sure, but I think the players are using AI to write it. If you're watching on YouTube or the NFL channel, you can see the image from Leo Chenal, and it just looks very similar to a couple of the images that I saw early in the week, especially the Zaire Franklin and then the Rashawn Gary one that he deleted. Now, if you read these closely, and you guys can do this in your homework, your off time, especially the Chenal and Rashawn Gary ones, they really include no information that is particular to them. You know what I mean? Like, it just could be any Chiefs player or almost any Packers player. And it just feels like either their agency or they are using AI to construct a goodbye letter.
They are. All you have to do is look at the transfer portal exits.
Yes.
When all these collegiate players hit the transfer portal, there's a million of them, and they all look alike.
This is like such a trigger for me, because I've gotten a few emails recently with pitches for things or like treatments for like shows or ideas or shoots, and it's so clearly AI that there wasn't even the thought to go through and like read it, because the words are running together, things don't make sense. I'm like, guys.
I mean, the Rashawn Gary one said something like, "Wherever I go, I'll bring my 6'7", 250 pounds." Goodbye, Rashawn Gary. Nobody talks like that. To quote one of the greatest NFL Network employees of all time, like, we're losing recipes. It is not great, and we're Wall-Eing ourselves. You remember the movie Wall-E?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's happening. Don't let that happen.
Better than iRobot at this stage.
It was really telling. Before we break, I'll just mention.
Be smarter, everybody.
Yeah, please.
Be careful out
Aaron
there.
Jones, by the way, we mentioned he was going to get cut, is going to stay with the Vikings after all on a reduced contract. I think that's great for both sides. And Harrison Smith is getting released in a procedural move. He hasn't decided whether he wants to retire or not. The lines of communication are open, and if he chooses to play still in 2026, he could come back. But I like Aaron Jones returning to the Vikings. Let's take another break here, and we will be back in just a couple minutes. Stick with us. let's rip through just a few other news items. But I do want to confirm the email. Is it back?
I don't know. I'm working on it. All right, Greg? Everyone's working on it.
I was thinking, and there's no way HR is listening. I was thinking it would be great in the future because some of these are hard. I could pay my son to do the HR requirements for me at home, just like be like an allowance, like $1.
Someone else
like
said to me, you should get kids because it's super fun to do the Ninjas with your children.
You can do that.
Nothing on an open mic.
Couple other moves, and I'm just going to ask you for one-liners on a couple of these.
God.
Javon Hargrave goes to the Green Bay Packers. I'm really surprised that he got $13 million guaranteed, 2 years for $23 million.
He's in the salary Hall of Fame, and they needed a D tackle. Javon's a good run stuffer.
So the Vikings cut him. He goes right to Green Bay. Bradley Chubb got $29 million guaranteed from the Bills, 3 years, $52 million. They're a team. I was going to call you Jordan. Colleen. I'm just so used to it. You know, she's here a lot. We need to hear more.
I love Jordan, so I will take that as a compliment.
Like, I don't know. Like, Bradley Chubb's coming out. He's had a lot of injuries in his career, and they have a lot of holes to fill, and not a lot of cap space. To spend this much money on Bradley Chubb seems like a lot to me.
It's a lot, but I mean, he would start opposite Greg Rousseau, and it's going to be a new defense. They're changing base systems, so there's kind of a lot in flux. But I think it's it's similar to the schemes that he played in Miami previously and Denver, so that could help.
Well, and they got the coach from Denver, Leonard.
Yeah.
So there's
Jim.
She did it again.
Jim Leonard. Hey.
She did it again. The Patriots have signed Kevin Byard up to $9 million. Not sure what the real money is there, but an interesting older addition.
Yeah, but I'm surprised that the Bears let him go.
I am too, but it's going to make that defense a little slower, but kind of like a leader.
Well, yeah, he'll stabilize some things in the back end.
They cut Anthony Jennings, who's been there a long time. We mentioned earlier that Kirk Cousins could potentially be interested in the Raiders. A couple other minor signings. The Dolphins bringing back Josh Uche, Willie Gay, and then the news in NFL all but confirmed it with a statement that they're circling Thanksgiving Eve. Colleen and Steve, are you ready to work another game? Thanksgiving Eve could be coming to the NFL schedule as early as this season.
They played a Wednesday game on Christmas, so it's coming. It's coming to set up the all the streamers and the 18th game.
Listen, I mean, there's going to be a game on Valentine's Day. There's going to be a game on Easter.
I have
some
two
point
thoughts.
in the future.
If I
St.
can
Patrick's
get
Day.
more like another job out of it, I'm all for it. If not, we'll just combine it into the Thanksgiving Day recap, I think, on NFL Daily.
So NFL Daily, it's a daily show, and you would like another job
well,
on top
I'm saying
of that.
you're saying streamers or whatever. Who knows? There's always opportunities out there. Thanksgiving Eve, but that would really hurt the teams the week before because they'd have to have a bye week.
They'd give them a bye.
But then they don't get a real bye week.
Or they'd be a Thursday team playing on a Wednesday.
That's true.
Either way, it's
weekday work, man.
Mike North will figure it out.
A long time ago, I suggested on the Around the NFL podcast my plan. This was way back in 2015 to play NFL. This was before I had 2 kids, but to play NFL games every day of the week. I came up with a whole schedule that we could do 2 games a day for the entire season. The NFL is getting closer to that each and every year. Let's take a break. We will wrap up the show on the other side, talking to 3 specific fan bases that just need to calm down. Just calm down a little bit. All right, this is the part of free agency where a lot of fan bases are just like, how come my team's not doing anything?
Yeah.
Can we do something more? Why don't you care about us? And so we're going to do a segment about it, and it's really just an excuse for Colleen to talk about the Eagles.
Listen, all right, fine. I was going to say that usually when you tell someone to calm down, it goes really well.
Oh, yeah, good point.
So I say this with like some caution for Eagles fans to calm down. And I don't know if it's honestly like if I'm projecting, if this is real, is it just my family like kind of talking about it? Okay. All right. So I think in a way it is warranted because they lost Jalen Phillips, Nakobe Dean, Reed Blankenship. The wide receiver room is sort of uncertain right now with all of the rumors swirling about A.J. Brown. Jahan Dotson is gone. Dallas Goedert, that is unclear what's going to happen with him. However, I just feel like at this point, Howie Roseman has showed us that even when things look awful on this roster, that he finds a way, and there's always internal replacements that are already in place, like Jahad Campbell for Dean. You have Andrew Makuba for Blankenship. I mean, they have a ton of draft capital, 9 picks, including 4 compensatory picks. And the wild card loss last year to the 49ers, it's not like it was some blowout. Yes, they lost. That was bad at home, but it was a close competitive game. And Howie's track record, I just think everyone needs to take a deep breath and watch him cook. Let's see what happens.
And oh, by the way, it's like, oh, the roster's in tough shape. Oh, yeah, I'm sure a ton of teams out there feel bad for the team that has A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and 3 of the best offensive linemen in the league and a Super Bowl winning quarterback and Saquon Barkley and Jalen Carter and Zach Bond. And the guys in the back end, calm down.
Same.
Also, Baldy. Heard that maybe they're talking A.J. Brown to the Broncos is something that would be interesting. I don't know who would be coming back. Maybe it would be Cortland Sutton. Who knows?
Well, the wide receiver class this year in the draft is really deep.
And then there has been other reporting, too, that they could be talking to the Vikings about Jonathan Grenard to fill that edge. So I'm with you. Calm down. Let Howie do his thing. It's not about the first couple of days.
I thought you were going to drop a, hey, Sean Mannion's got this on us.
How about yours is simple. We've talked about
Mine's simple,
yours.
and I say this because at least the Raiders have a legit, like, hardcore fan base, but they need to chill. I mean, the other day they were so upset, like, oh, man, we got rid of Maxx. He's the heart and soul of our team and our community. All of a sudden, Maxx fails to physical. Oh, we got Maxx back. This sucked. We lose a second round. We lose that second first-round draft pick. What the hell? The NFL is against us.
It is funny.
Yeah, calm down.
And for everyone,
you can't have it both ways. It's not like you guys have been ripping off Super Bowl championships. Just continue to be tortured like Eagles fans, except the Eagles fans have once. Continue to be tortured and trust the process right now.
And if all those teams are so mad about what the Ravens did with Crosby, go get Crosby. You know, the price is down. You can go get him. I'm going to talk about the Chargers, who I think I over-index in following Chargers fans and in media, and so I don't think this would be known nationally, but they are freaking out right now that the team has not addressed the offensive line specifically enough.
They got Tyler Biadasz.
You know, they got Tyler Biadasz. They re-signed a couple guys that didn't really play that well for them, Pipkins and who was it, Trevor Penning. But again, it's like these offensive line contracts where you're paying up the nose. Mike McDaniel has 2 great tackles now, and it's day 1 officially of free agency. And so it's more about the timing of it all. Like, let them do their work. Don't evaluate the entire offseason at this point. You can find other offensive linemen and you can coach them.
They didn't love their guards, who they let go. They didn't love their guards. They got a blocking tight end to help compensate for the injured tackles who are coming back. But Chargers, they should feel good. This is the first time they've ever been told to calm down. You know, ever since, Rolf Pernuski was missing extra points and field goals.
The expectations are higher, just like they are on this show. Look, Colleen Wolf, like Grand Theft Auto through the streets of Los Angeles. She gets here just in time. Steve Wyche. It's been fun all week. We've been going live earlier in the week. We'll still be doing NFL Daily every day this week, but not live. So see you later.